And we are started. So, welcome to Insights from Philly, and thank you so much, Seth, for streaming in today. How's everything in Arizona?
Everything's good, man. Everything is good. It's kind of like Groundhog's Day over here, but other than that, everything's good. Weather's great. Um, People are practicing social distancing, and the only thing that's really up and running right now is the golf courses. Everything else is shut down.
Well, hearing the golf course is open, I'm sure it makes you happy since that's one of your favorite things to do, right?
Absolutely. At least I get a 4 or 5 hour window every day where I can either go and play or go to the range and hit some balls in practice.
That's nice. Well, I'm glad for you. Unfortunately, we don't have that here, but at least one of us can be having some fun like that. So it's funny how this worked out. So I had Keith on, was my first guest the other day, and I don't know if you remember this story, but so Keith was actually the first player that I ever worked with. I got him an endorsement, and then he introduced me to you. It was probably the next year, but it kind of worked out interesting because Keith was my first NFL player. You were actually my second. There was like a Philly and a Sixer in between the two of you, but it's kind of cool how things worked out. But one thing that is kind of a cool thing is that I actually so I got you an endorsement in the 90s and the 2000s, and so we've been working together quite a long time. And I got you one recently with Davis Honda in the 2020. So it's pretty cool. So once again, thanks for dialing in today, and I really appreciate your time.
All good, my friend.
So this show's basically all about trying to give people like some tips from the pros, so to speak, on overcoming obstacles, and we call it Insights from Philly. And your career, I mean, you were the Defensive Player of the Year according to SI in '91, 3-time Pro Bowler, 2-time All-Pro, got your Super Bowl ring. Unfortunately, wasn't here, but you were a late round draft choice who was actually cut his first season. And I mean, your study habits are legendary. But how did you kind of like recover from being cut to becoming the player that you became?
Well, for me, I didn't look at it as a recovery. It was more or less for me one of those situations where it was more of a motivation being cut. It was a tough time, and it was tough not being on the team those first 2 games of that season, my rookie year. So what it did is it created a resolve in me to come back and work as hard as I could work to make sure that I didn't get cut again. So some people they look at it one way. For me, it's one of those things where, in my opinion, it was the best thing that ever happened to me because it reshuffled my focus. It strengthened my resolve. It strengthened my resiliency. All of those things. I knew that I was good enough to play. I just needed to stick around long enough for everybody else to realize that I was good enough to play. And by being cut and seeing what it was like not having your dream, not being a part of the team that you had just gotten done going through 6 weeks of training camp with, that was more of a motivator than anything else. So for me, it wasn't necessarily about, recovering from it. It was, a rallying point for me.
So essentially, it was your mindset. Like you use that, much like it, the old thing that Tom Brady always said. He was drafted whatever 199th. He used that as his motivation. You use that as your. When I get back, they're going to see what I'm all about.
Well, I mean, when you're an underdog and no one really expects anything out of you, and no one can see what you believe about yourself, you have to have something to rally around. You have to have something, that fuels your fire. And for me, it's always been that way. All of my entire life, people have told me what I couldn't do, what I wasn't equipped to do, what I wasn't able to do. The problem with people who have opinions like that, is one thing they can't do is they can't get inside my heart. They can't get inside my mind and understand truly what I'm all about. So then that creates an opportunity for me to shut down the naysayers, to make them eat crow. And that's not necessarily my objective, but when people tell you can't do something, I think everyone wants to kind of thumb their nose at them and say, just watch me cook.
Well, so I had the the honor of kind of helping you create the Jerome Brown Foundation and see all the stuff that you do in the community. And would you say that? I mean, you had many great years, but I mean that one you were pretty much given like a high accolade above and beyond. Would you say that you were kind of playing at another level, as was kind of like from above type of thing, or was it just that steel resolve that you have? We're going to win this for Jerome type of thing.
Well, I think it just became a rallying cry for the entire team. I mean, listen, we lost, not only a brother, a teammate, a friend, but an important part of, what our team was really about. You can talk about all the great players on the defensive side of the ball, Randall and the guys that we had on the offensive side of the ball that were great players. But at the end of the day, Jerome was, he was our leader. Everyone talks about Reggie and how great Reggie was, and he was great. But Reggie wasn't the leader. That was Jerome. So when you lose a guy like that, it creates, and to just to back up a second, you get the backstory, you understand why it was so hard is because, Jerome came in 2 years after I was in Philadelphia. And he was really kind of, my little brother. We lived in the same condo complex, the whole deal. We did everything together. So it was one of those things where, he had gotten to a point where, injuries had befallen him quite a bit. And I was talking to him incessantly. I'm like, dude, you got to work out. You got to put in the work in the off season. Well, sometimes when you're talented as he was, you have the ability to rely, on your talent and your skills and your ability, but in order for him to take his game to the next level, I was talking to him about, hey, you got it in the off season. If, you want to come to El Paso and work out with me, you want me to come down and work out a couple of weeks with you down in Brooksville, whatever. And he had actually turned the corner. He had turned the corner and actually started to train and work and trying to, make sure that he could get through a 16-game schedule and trying to better himself. So when you lose him, it's like he's transforming his life. He's changing. Why now? Why does something like this have to happen when someone's trying to better themselves? So it was really difficult because he was our leader. It was difficult because, he was like a little brother to me, and it was difficult because I could begin to see the changes in him, and then like that, he was gone.
I mean, I can only imagine, like you lose the force up the middle, Pro Bowl player, and then the defense somehow, all kind of came together. Would you say that that was akin to everybody's playing for one another more so, and the collective, kind of like the team that eventually won the championship? For us, they overcame all those injuries, and it became everybody collective as opposed to maybe what was going on.
Well, the great year that we had was the year prior to the off season where he passed away. The following year, we had a decent year, but we were driven by emotion. And the problem with emotion is oftentimes sooner or later you just become emotionally drained. By the time we got to the end of the year, we've been carrying this banner, bringing home for Jerome, and everything that went along with it. I mean, he was a centerpiece of, almost everything that we were doing. By the time we got to the end of the year, we were cooked. We had nothing left because we were just emotionally drained. But we played some hell of a football, for a long time before we reached that point.
Well, I remember being at the one game. I don't remember if you picked it off and ran it into the end zone or picked up a fumble, and you pointed to the sign. That was that was pretty deep. I gotta say.
Yeah, that was an interception. That was against Minnesota at home. I remember that game. But yeah, man, it's just I mean, that within itself, kind of gives you an idea of how emotional that year was. It was like every play, every big play, you're trying to give a tribute to this guy. You're trying to give a tribute to your friend, to your fallen brother. And it just, as the season wore on, by the time we got to the end of the year, we were just drained. I mean, we were mentally and physically drained by that loss.
How great was it after your career to kind of come back here and to get to be elected to the Hall of Fame and going with your buddy Clyde? Tell me about that.
Well, I mean, listen, as eighth and ninth round draft picks, I don't think anybody, we probably didn't envision it. Certainly the Eagles organization at that time, and probably throughout the history of, the organization, no one expected for, two guys drafted in the eighth and ninth round to turn into, Philadelphia Eagle Hall of Famers. It was made that much special because, Clyde and I, have this bond where, we came in together same year in the off season, when we were in Philadelphia for the off season program. We lived together. So it was just one of those things where it was a great honor to come back and finally be recognized, by the organization, but a new owner in the organization as well. And then, to be able to go in with Clyde, both of us on the same day at the same time, just made it even that much more special.
Well, you've been here long enough to know, I mean, how these Philly sports fans are. Like now that you have a broadcasting career and you're on TV every week, and like tell me some story that just kind of surprised you, or something that really touched you in the last 5 or so years that you've been doing that.
The thing that moves me and the thing that shocks me the most is that 2019 marked 20 years of me being retired. Okay, so I retired in 1999. So, I mean, 2019 marked 20 years. The thing about Philadelphia that continues to amaze me is that the love that you get 20 years removed. Now, that's 20 years from the NFL. That's not taking in consideration the 5 years that I've been removed from playing in Philadelphia. I played my first 8 years there. The second 5, I was in Arizona, Green Bay, and Denver. And then you throw 20 years of actually being out of the game on top of that. So you're talking about 25 years removed from even playing a game in Philadelphia. And the love is just as strong now as it was back then. I get people that come up to me in Philadelphia all the time, love you on the show, great commentary. We need you on the field. We need you coaching. And I'm like, do you know I've been retired 20 years, that there's nothing left? But, people say it all the time. Like they really believe that there's something that I have left that I could go out on the field and help this organization at my age. That just blows me away, that they can believe that, but the fact that they feel the way that they feel, and the way that as a Philadelphia professional athlete, as one of Philly's sons, that after all this time that the love is still so strong.
Yeah, no doubt. So one last thing. So tell our viewers, tell the world. I mean, we're in unprecedented times now. I mean, if I would have told you 4 months ago that the casinos were going to be closed in Atlantic City, and everybody was going to be quarantined at home. I've seen you give many an inspirational speech to people and motivate people. What can you tell people now to give them hope?
Well, I would say this, the United States and the rest of the world has been through, some pretty tragic things over our history. And we've overcome them. 9/11, financial, implosions, if you will. Spanish fever back in, the early 1900s, world wars. We've been through a lot. And there's no doubt in my mind that the United States of America will get through this. I think people need to be cognizant of the fact that the world in which we live, once we come out of this, because I keep hearing people say, I can't wait till things get back to normal. Can't wait. Well, things will never, ever. The world that we used to live in will never be the same. It'll never be the same. Say it again.
New normal's coming.
Well, a new normal is coming because, you think about it, even when we come out of this, the fear has been so astronomical that if what fear does is fear paralyzes people. So you're going to have people that are going to be still walking around with gloves and masks on. You're going to have people that are going to continue to want to social distance, even though we're beyond the scare. There's going to be great opportunities coming out of when you have tragedies like this. There are great opportunities coming out of it. But who are the people that take advantage of that? The people who aren't afraid to step forward and take advantage of it. So I would be using this time, to do some self-reflection, to do some, some self-improvement, do some research, do some reading. Start trying to understand how you're going to navigate this new world that we're about to enter into, because it is going to be markedly different. There are going to be a lot of jobs and businesses that don't come back. It's going to be, in my opinion, almost impossible for us over the next 1.5 to 2 years to get back below 10% unemployment. So our world is going to rapidly change. But at the same time, while it's changing, there's going to be massive opportunity for people who are willing to do the work and understand where those opportunities are, and even much more so, that aren't afraid to step out on faith and take advantage of these opportunities.
Well, that's great. That's great commentary and great advice there. I can't tell you, how much that means to me. It's also interesting. I had concepted the idea for Insights from Philly a couple of years back, and my thought was to have somebody like you interview other, like notable Philadelphians. That was kind of like my tagline. Notable Philadelphians are going to give advice. And I thought maybe it can help, teenagers and, high school kids and, even some college students. And I was watching this live stream event the other day, about 10 days ago, by a guy by the name of Gary Vaynerchuk, he's like one of my idols. And he was talking about perfection is actually fear with lipstick on it. And that really struck a chord with me, because I've been wanting to do this show, but I needed a sponsor, because I had to, promote it and all that stuff. And I just decided the other day, well, I'm just going to do it and interview, the people I know and try to get their insights. And, who knows who we might be able to help from that. So.
Well, I tell you, I'm glad you did it. I think, even in the midst of what's going on, there's opportunities right now. People are sitting home every day. They have nothing to do. It's like Groundhog's Day, like I said, every single day, over and over again. And people are looking for content. If you turn on the TV, they're rerunning shows, they're rerunning sporting events. You turn on the news, you can't watch it any more than 10 or 15 minutes because it's all doom and gloom. They're hyping the fear and all of that. At the end of the day, we're going to have to step out of that. At the end of the day, like Martin Luther King said, you don't have to see the next step. By faith, step, and it'll be there. So when you step out the way that you step out and decided you're going to do this, it makes all the sense in the world. I just launched my website and my podcast, 3 weeks ago, right in the midst of this. So it's like, People are looking for inspiration. They're looking for content. They're looking for things to fill their days, to fill their intellect, to fill their mind. So a show like this is perfect. It's perfect. And you know what? You start off, you know, you never despise small beginnings, because you start up with something small, the word gets out, next thing you know, that's how it grows. That's the way, you know, the process works.
Well, I'd love for this to, there being insights from Boston and insights from Arizona. Who knows where it could go? But feel free to. What time's your podcast on, and where could people tune into that?
Well, my podcast is on. It's on a multiple of platforms: iTunes, Spotify, Anchor. It's all over the place. The best thing to do is to go to my website, SethJoyner.com. All the info is there. You can sign up and subscribe. But I'm on every Tuesday at about 6 p.m. So, and you know how podcasts are. You know, we tape it,
Sure.
They cut it up, put it together, and post it. So I don't think that there's actually a live feed for you to listen to as we're taping it. We tape it at 6 o'clock every Tuesday. But by the time they post it, you know, it's clean, it's cut up, and it's, you know, got good music on and all that kind of stuff.
Nice.
So, you know, the best place to find it is at SethJoyner.com.
All right. You heard it, everybody. Go to SethJoyner.com. Seth, I really appreciate you coming on today. If you could do one last thing and just say, tune in to Insights from Philly for me, I'd be happy.
All right, people. Go Philly. Tune in to Insights from Philly.
Thanks, man. We'll have fun on the golf course today, and we'll talk soon. Thanks, bro.
We'll do that. Take care.
Thanks.